the Rasha the way that the Rasha looks at the Rasha, because it's a very perplexing passage, because like you're just like, how come, he's just asking Mahavara Hazol Lachem. When you look at the passage objectively, it doesn't actually sound all that bad, and then you look at the response and it's pretty harsh, and you just think, why? How could this happen? And so I thought, if you look at it in the way that it's what he says, Mahavara Hazol Lachem, like, what is, he's like, you could just say Mahavara Hazol. You could cut out Lachem entirely, and it would mean the exact same thing, but a lot less in like a disrespectful way. And he's asking this question, which is a very perfectly valid question, but he's asking it in a disrespectful way, which shows that his intentions aren't to learn more or to like become a better person or like to, become more knowledgeable and teach others or learn from others.
Nice.
It's to be disrespectful, and by that you see he's being contrarian for its own sake, which in a way is actually being like a slave, because he's not actually forming his own opinions. He's only reacting to other people's opinions. So that's why he says, because he's enslaving himself.
Nice.
That's very
Very
well
nice.
put.
Very
Like
nice. Ada. Okay, on page 30, let's go up a little bit further. And Yacham Rosh Chodesh, the top paragraph, is telling us when we are meant to do it. And then we have Mitchila Ovdev Razahar Yavutenu, letting us know, the second paragraph there on page 30-31, of how it all began, right? And we bring from Yoshua, right? We bring from Joshua. Interesting. Kol Ma'ashem Elkei Yisrael, the Eivar Nahar Yoshua V'Seichem V'Elam Terach Avram Avinachav V'Avdullah Hemachrim. They served other gods, and I took your father Avram, and I brought him to the land of Canaan. I increased his seed, and I gave him Yitzchak, and I gave Yitzchak Yaakov, and Esav, and I gave to Esav Har Seir, the Yaakov of Anav Yardu Mitzrayim, and Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. Very interesting, right? The Rabbi Foreman has a very, very beautiful approach on this, right? The Seder Buster, right? The Seder Buster question is, thank you, God, for taking us out of Mitzrayim, but why'd you put us in? Right? So don't put us in, don't take us out, and I'll eat falafel the whole week. Okay? Let's make it easy. Right?
I wish.
So clearly, that needs to be addressed. Okay? And the more classic approaches is that we needed to undergo this whole breakdown in order to be built into this nation of God, that we need to sense giving up our own will for the will of another. But now, instead of it being this tyrannical ruler named Pharaoh, now it is this loving God, that everything that we are doing His will is for our own benefit. So we needed, right? These are the approaches that are often given, right? But he makes a very interesting observation over here. When we're quoting from Yoshua, what does God do? Right? Let's look at English. Your fathers always lived beyond the Euphrates River. Terach, the father of Abraham, Nachor, and they served the gods. Then I, God speaking, took your father Abraham from beyond the river and led him out to the land of Canaan. I multiplied his offspring and gave him Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esav. To Esav I gave Mount Seir to inherit. But Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. What just changed? There's no I. What happened? Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. Very interesting. How did we get down to Egypt?
We went down.
We went down to Egypt. The brothers sold Yosef, and Yosef went down, was there, and then the brothers came down, and then we settled there in Egypt. So we sort of got ourselves into that. So therefore, is it God who put us in there? Maybe not. Maybe we got ourselves into the mess. And maybe as a parent, you'll let your children get into certain messes on their own because they need to learn. But you're never going to let them sink in so deep that they can't get themselves out of it. And let's go to the next paragraph with that in mind. Baruch Shomer Havtachato li Yisrael. Blessed is the one who kept his pledge to Israel. Blessed is he. That God calculated the end of the bondage. So to do as he said to Avram Avinu and the Brit Bein Hatarim, Shenem Avram Avram, Yadoa Teidaki Ger Yazarcha Ba'aretz Lahem. No, your children will be foreigners in a land that's not theirs. Va'avadum V'inu Otam, and they'll be enslaved, they'll be afflicted 400 years. The Gavat Hagoyesh Yavodu Dan Anochi, and the nation that they served, I will judge that nation, and then they will go out for Rechush Gadol. Now, is God saying this is what must happen? Or is God saying this is what will happen? Again, Yadoa Teda. No. Right? You know, and this is what stood by our fathers and for us. What is the this?
400 years.
Well, this guarantee of the Brit Bein Hatarim, of the covenant between the halves. Now that was a very, very frightening. Right? You know, Avram, please put yourself in Avram's shoes for a moment. That doesn't sound all that great. Right? Oh, thank you, God. They'll be enslaved for 400 years in a land not theirs. They'll be tortured. Oh, thanks for sharing. Right? I mean, it's not very comforting, is it? But the Haftacha is that, and again, let's look over here. Your children will be in a land that's not theirs and they'll be enslaved. Nothing about God doing anything. Where does God get involved? The Gamat HaGoyesh Yavodu Dan Anochi. Oh, that's where God gets involved. That nation will be judged. And you will go out for Rechush Gadol. So therefore, this will happen. It can happen in different forms. Right? He goes into a whole piece from Rav Soloveitchik very beautifully. Right? If you want to go to aleph-beta.org, right? It's a 5-part series. Each one is only about 15 minutes or so. Very, very worthwhile. Right, he brings from Rav Soloveitchik that Yaakov thought that this was fulfilled already by his time in Lavan. Right? Because we speak about the 4th generation will come back. So Avram says, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Yosef is born. Yaakov says, time to travel back. So he thought this could have been fulfilled in many different ways. It ended up being Mitzrayim. End up being where we are now. But Vihi Sha'amda, that is the guarantee for all generations. We're having a beautiful Seder here in Irvine, California, but there were Seders that took place in Auschwitz. There's Seders that took place in the newsletter I sent out that took place in Siberia. There are Seders that took place during crusades. Seders that took place during pogroms. Seders that took place during the Inquisition. So how do you celebrate a Pesach Seder when outside people are getting pulled apart? How do you celebrate a Pesach Seder when there's a smoke coming out of the crematoria? V'hi she'amda lavoseinu. The bracha that we make at Marav every night is Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad. He will guard, he will maintain his nation Israel La'ad, forever. We as a nation will survive anything and everything that they have, and hopefully we're finished with that. But anything that will be thrown at us, we will survive. Why? V'hi sha'amda lavotenu. That is the chizuk. That is the comfort. That is the strengthening. When you're having a Seder when they had the Seders during the Inquisition and during all those periods of time, V'hi sha'amda lavosenu. That whatever predicament we might find ourselves in, we might get ourselves in. The Yaakov Avanav Yardu Mitzrayim. Achrechen Yetzu B'Rechush Gadol. right? There is a din, there is a dayan, there is a judge, there is a judgment, there is an accounting, and ultimately the full geula will come about. And that's what the Seder is a celebration of, even in the darkest of times that we have been living. Yes?
I heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, but that the 400 years started from the promise to Abraham. And so when they were in Mitzrayim, it was really only the 270 years, and that's why when Moshe
210
was
years,
210
correct.
years.
Yeah, there are different ways of calculating the 400 years. That's for sure.
And that's why Paro was so reluctant to let the Jews out, because she heard not there yet. And
Okay, good. And then it's Seyul Lamad, that's why on page 32, where this will end, that's why we're going into Lavan Harami. Why are you talking about Lavan over here? We're talking about the Exodus from Egypt. Why are you bringing in Lavan? Oh, because it started over there already. And there were different ways that the Geula could have come about, right? But Lavan also tried to destroy that nation, the very, very beginning of the nation of Israel. When Yaakov, at the very beginning, before he had his tribes, right? And nevertheless, Hashem saved us. And then the last point I wanted to make, and I'll give you just a couple other little ones, right? Why are we going into, right? We take these psukim from Devarim, Parshat Ki Tavo, and we have the story over there. Why from there? Why not zero in, right? We bring our magnifying glass and we go into every aspect of these psukim. Talk about psukim from Exodus, from Shemot. That's the book of Exodus. Why are we going into this Arami Oved Avi? So fascinating. This is the statement that is made when a person would bring the bikurim, the first fruits, to the temple. And they make this proclamation going through our history, right? And then God has brought us, well, we don't go into over here, but this is part of that proclamation. God has brought us to the land of Israel. Because until that point, it's still an unfinished. Exodus is great. Ready to go out of Egypt. Where are we? Now we're in the desert. Wonderful. How did that go? Not so well. Not so well. We got hungry, we got thirsty, right? We kept saying maybe you should go back, right? 40 years later, right? So we're not zeroing on those psukim. We're zeroing on the psukim of God brought us. There was the fulfillment of the pledge. He brought us to Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, the land that was flowing with milk and honey. That's what we focus on, because this night is meant to be a night of gratitude, of appreciation. And the Bikurim are all about the appreciation. Just one last point that I always like to make. You might want to add it to your Seder. So, when we talk about the plagues, we drop out some wine, right, based on the famous Medrash, or Gemara, I believe, where the sages say, Maseh Yadai Tuvuin Biyam Va'atem Omrim Shira. The angels were not allowed to sing their song of praise to God as we were crossing through the sea, because my creations, the Egyptians, are also my creations. They're drowning in the sea. So it might be necessary to save the Jewish people from the oppression that they were putting on them, but still is tragic. An amputation is life-saving. At the same time, it's very, very tragic. So we drop out some of the blood, some of the wine by each of these plagues to show our sadness, our empathy. We also do it at an earlier point on page 36, 37, on the very bottom. We're talking about then when there will be this Gog Umagog, this Armageddon, and it will be Dam, the Aish, the Timrot Asham, blood, fire, and columns of smoke. Right? Also there we drop out a little bit of wine. Now Dam we know means blood. Aish we know means fire. Timrot Ashan is translated as columns of smoke. But actually, what is a tamar?
It's a date.
It's a palm tree. So if I were to say to you, palm trees of smoke, smoke in the shape of a palm tree, what does that look like?
Mushrooms.
A mushroom cloud is what smoke in the shape of a palm tree is. It goes up and then it mushrooms out. So fascinating that the Navi over here, well before the Manhattan Project was even dreamt of, is talking about the Armageddon War, which will include Timrot Ashan. It will include, again, columns of smoke, fair enough, but Tamar is a palm tree shaped smoke that we see here in our Haggadah, like I said, written long, long, long before. Lastly, Dayenu, enough, what we're saying is, each one of those would have been enough for us to have a profound sense of appreciation. That's what the Dayenu is. Not that God should have, brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, or not given us all these different things. But even had he stopped along the way, our appreciation would have properly been a tremendous sense of appreciation. And very often, our appreciation is for a finished product. And we have to realize that we must have appreciation for every step along the way that God, others, do for us in giving us the gifts that we have. So we didn't get to go quite as far as I had hoped, but we covered a nice amount. I wish everybody a Chag Kosher Smech. And again, if there's anybody that you know of who could use a second Seder, please, please, please let me know, and we would like them to join us. Okay? You'll let us know. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here.
Call that happened.